Hello, hello. My name's Noelle, if we're meeting for the first time, and I'm a clinical nutritionist. I'm a holistic gut specialist, but really, I'm just a woman who knows what it's like to feel like body, mind, food is just running her life, and you're just trying to figure out what to do to get better. And basically, your life's on hold because of your body in some way. So today, this little talk might be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I always carve out more time, so we might go over. Is going to be a gut health 101. Why? I was just talking with Victoria about this like 10 minutes ago. Victoria is here on the call. And I was like, wow, I have been running my practice now for the past 3, 4 years, focusing on digestive and gut health based issues. But I haven't really ever done like a gut 101. And I felt like it was just time to do that. And a little bit of a overview of what we're going to cover so you know what you're getting into. If you're here, you probably you're not new to hearing gut health, hearing about the gut, and all of a sudden it's like popping off. Like, what's going on? Um, what I want to do is basically share how I came to even care about gut health, because to be honest, it's like when I was struggling with my even digestive issues and like mental health, all the things, I had zero interest in the microbiome. I could care less. I was like, please, I don't want to be bloated anymore. I don't want to be on prescription laxatives. I don't want to be anxious and depressed. Help. But basically, a little personal anecdote to like how I got here. And then really just educating on why your gut is a big deal. And if you're struggling with digestive issues, skin issues, weight issues, hormone issues, really any issue that you feel like, shoot, I am really trying everything here. What's going on? Especially if what you've been trying has been mainly in the Western space, like going to doctors and all that. And you just feel like kind of at a loss. How the gut could be this missing piece for you. Um, and then from there, what the heck do we do about it? Because it's great to learn about, okay, the gut's the center, cool, cool, cool. But now what? So we're gonna end with some action steps on like, now that you know this stuff, again, if you're struggling with chronic skin issues, weight issues, hormone, digestive, mental health actually is kind of like the biggest one here. What do we do so that you can rebalance and realign? Okay, so I'm just going to start off with a little version of my story. I'm going to try to keep it short. But Tori's laughing, like she's going to tell this hour-long story. No, but I think it's really important when you're learning from somebody. For me, at least, I learn so much better when I feel like the person I'm learning from gets it on an emotional level. And let me tell you, my issues started, I was overweight as a kid, all these different things going on. I developed an eating disorder. And something I see a lot with my clients, like they've been dieting for years, especially if you're a woman, it's hard to meet somebody who hasn't struggled with their relationship to food. I recovered from that, but then couple years later, even though I was recovered and like eating again, eating more normally, my food relationship was like seemed a little bit better. My different systems in my body had been really affected. And so by 15, 16, really 15, I had started having terrible, terrible, terrible gastrointestinal issues. So gut issues. And it just started as bloating. And then then it went to constipation. And then it went to me eating foods that I've always eaten and having serious issues. And then it ended up getting to this point where I couldn't keep food down. So I started to pay a lot of attention to my gut that I had never really thought about before. Because it was all about like being thin and food is calories and like all of that. But all of a sudden you're eating good foods. I thought I was eating good foods and there I was bloated. Anyways, you can imagine, and maybe you're here, when you're having gut issues, then it was like they were a pair. Anxiety and my mood was, I already was struggling with my mental health, but took it to a whole nother level. I had a psychiatrist, I had a gastroenterologist, I was going to endocrinologist because my hormones were all jacked up. Like I just felt like, and I feel like so many people feel like this. Um, it starts with one thing, but then all of a sudden we have this laundry list of things going on. And it's like you have this team of people working around you, or you're Googling your way into just, you have so many issues. And that was me. That was me. And basically did the whole doctor thing for 2 years. And with the utmost respect, they were doing their job. They diagnosed me. I had IBS, SIBO. I'm sharing this so you know my diagnoses. I had IBS, SIBO, and then more of a serious condition called gastroparesis that they said was a chronic condition, meaning there's no cure. And when you get told that, no matter what condition it is, maybe for you it's psoriasis, maybe it's IBD, same boat. Maybe it's anxiety and depression. Honestly, sometimes when we get diagnosed with that, we think it's just a chemical imbalance. We have that forever. This chronic condition that was only going to get worse over time. And I was 16, and I reached this point with the medical system where I wasn't getting better. I was getting more pills, more diagnoses, but I wasn't getting better. And that forced me, I think now, it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing that I went through that and really had to hit like this rock bottom, because it led me into searching for my own solutions. And that's how I found the natural functional space. And once I got into that world, all of a sudden, like gut health and like gut healing and that stuff came into my awareness. I'm like, what? I've never heard of healing. Like, I didn't know you could do that. And gut health, what? And I started to learn, like, wait, foods can affect this. And like, it just, whole new world. Have you, any of you been there? Victoria's nodding, where it's like, you discover this whole new world when you've just been in the medical space of like, wait, there's so much more to my body, to my health, all of that. So anywho, started working with multiple practitioners, diet changes, supplements, lifestyle. And I did like a full real reboot on my system. And in 6 months, most of my symptoms were gone. I got off all my medications, and there's a nuanced journey, right? But I really became obsessed with my gut and gut health, because when that part of my body collapsed, for me, it was very obvious. And we're going to talk about the difference between obvious and non-obvious gut issues. For me, it was very obvious there was issues with my gut because I was on laxatives. I needed laxatives to go. When I would eat, I would either feel sick or I would feel something, and I was super bloated. But I became aware of it because of that. And then this is kind of like, I guess, the most, I feel like, important part of that story is when I started the gut healing and I started focusing on my gut health from that point, very naturally, without me having to try, my anxiety that I felt was just like part of my personality, gone. No, I really mean gone. Everybody, I'll say, I think we get anxious. Anxiety is a natural reaction to certain situations, but not that chronic, all the time anxiousness. I was on depression medication. Didn't feel like I needed to be on it anymore. So my mood completely changed. And when that happened, I also just felt more like myself, like this part of myself that I almost like remembered from before that I can't really explain. I'm like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel. And then my relationship to food. And when I say relationship to food, I mean that thought process that you have when you go to a meal or you think about your day, especially if you're a woman, of like either just eating and feeling good about it, or like, how is that going to affect me? And then this and that, like that, for the first time in my life, quiet. And I saw the power, like I witnessed what happened when I, out of desperation, had to get my gut working again. I just saw it. And so from that place, I was like, oh, wow, if I, from where I started, could completely regain my health, and it all started with my gut, other people can. Turns out, little 17, 18-year-old Noelle, she wasn't the first on the scene. Like, gut health has been around, gut healing has been around in the functional medicine space forever. And there's so many amazing practitioners out there who can help you do these things that I'm talking about. It does not have to be me. But through my experience, right, I was like, oh my gosh, I've discovered the magic key to healing. And to be honest, it kind of is. So let's dive in. Just now that we're on the same playing field, you know where I'm coming from. Um, your gut. When people say that the gut is the center of your health, what does that even mean? So one way that I like to describe it, an analogy I like to use, is your gut. Your gut meaning your gut is your entire digestive system. It actually starts in your mouth and it like ends at your anus. But the majority of it is your intestines, your small and large intestine. And it's like, what? Yeah. And your stomach. It's not just your stomach, it's your intestines too. That system is like the foundation of your dream home. And your dream home is your ideal health, weight, body, mood, and then everything you will create from being in that healthy state. Your gut sets the tone of what can happen in your body. So think about it like if the foundation of your home is wobbly, here's what's so great about this analogy. It's like you can't see your foundation. You don't see the foundation of your home. But if it's wobbly or wasn't laid down right, or over time things have happened to it, you can get the nicest decorations inside. You can paint it all different kinds of colors, but if it's wobbly, you'll never feel stable in it. You're never quite feeling stable. You're always kind of like this. How that looks in the body is like if your gut is off, the rest of your body is responding to that. So like if your gut is off, then your hormones can be off. If your gut is off, then your skin health can be off. If your gut is off, a big one, your immune system will probably be off. If your gut is off, this is the most fascinating one, I think. Um, your mind, your mind will be off. And I say all of this not from a fear-mongering place of like, oh, like, you have to have perfect gut health or you're going to feel good crap. But more from, so we can understand the magnitude of how powerful and impactful our gut is, because we can either see it from, if you're listening to this going, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Like I have all these things going on. I know I have some gut issues going on. Well, if the gut can impact all the systems negatively, it will also impact all the systems positively. So when I think about, yeah, the gut is the center of your health, what I am seeing, I tend to see things through the lens of like my clients. And I think, well, if they can't lose weight and they have acne and they can't go to the bathroom and, their mood is like me, we could address all those things separately, or we could first work on getting the center of their body, their gut, working as it's supposed to. And if we do that, 9.9 out of 10 times, all of those other things will realign themselves, or realign themselves so much that they only need little tweakings on the side. So that's really what I mean by like the gut is your center, is the center of your body. Literally is, and like metaphorically speaking, if you have chronic gut issues like I did, it's kind of like, because it's the center of you, it's like your center, it's like the center of your own universe. And so if your gut is off, you're seeing the world through that place. It's way more obvious when you have bloating or you have constipation or you have IBD, where you're like, basically have a really terrible relationship with the bathroom and pains and all of that. It's like when your center is off, you're going to interact with the world from that place. And what's, again, so amazing is like when that center is calm, working as it should, then you're coming to the world really centered and balanced, like how you should feel. And I want to take a moment right now and just point this out, that I share this on every single one of my initial client calls. So when I first start working with somebody, our initial call is an hour and a half minimum. Why? Because when you work with somebody who's in the functional space, the approach is very personalized. And I think anybody can like sit back and think, your body's unique. What got you here is unique. Diet's going to be unique. Supplements are going to be unique. All of that. So anywho, sit down with somebody for an hour and a half. One of the first things that I share with them, I'm like, hey, through my eyes, you're already healthy. You're already healthy. You were meant to be healthy. Your body wants to be healthy. I know you're feeling like, super bloated, or, you're scared to eat, or your skin's going crazy, but that's the only way your body can communicate with you. All of those symptoms are just signs. And if we can approach this, you healing your gut, rebalancing your body from a place of, oh, my body's on my side. I know at my core, like, that I can be healthy. I will return to that. We approach it from like returning to health versus like trying to fix things. The energy shifts, and it's actually a much more enjoyable, less stressful experience. That is a big deal, I think, for anybody, but especially if you've been struggling for a minute, like I was. A year and a half is a long time. For some people, it's a decade and a half. But for me, at my point of life, when I was that young, that was a big portion of my life. A year and a half of feeling like I'm trying everything and nothing's working. That can do a lot to your mind. So a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I wanted to share that with you, that something that you can do right now, no matter what you're dealing with or after this, is just flipping the script. Like, yes, it sucks. Symptoms suck. Your body's not against you, though. They're just symptoms. And when you work with the right person, they can use those symptoms to help guide you to what you need to do to heal. So that was a little intermission from talking about all the things, that can kind of stress us out when we hear it. You're good. You're good. The fact that you found this video, the fact that you're here, you're on the right track. Okay. Continuing. So the gut is the center. Now let's get into some specifics around how it affects different systems. And again, I feel like we learn best through like real stories and examples. So I'm going to share the anxiety, the mood piece. I think this is really tough for us to grasp. Like, if you're struggling with anxiety and depression, like we think of going to a therapist and we think of going to a psychiatrist or something. Those things have their place. They do. They do. But think of it like this. If your body, its physiology is off, which means like if there's gut inflammation happening, if your hormones are imbalanced, any of those things, it means your physical body affects your brain health, your mental health. So however you're feeling physically sets the base, the tone for your brain. So if you're dealing with anxiety, depression, and your body, your physical body is off, even though they seem so separate, it will be hard to feel a real breakthrough from your anxiety, from that feeling of like, oh, until your physical base is balanced. Then the therapy becomes useful because you're actually coming there with your true mind in a way. There's an amazing psychiatrist. I want to point you in her direction, actually. Her name is Dr. Ellen Vora. And she wrote an incredible book. It's called The Anatomy of Anxiety. And she talks about true anxiety versus false anxiety. And it speaks to this point. True anxiety, and this applies to depression too, to be honest, through my lens. True anxiety is the anxiety that is a response from things happening. Or for example, you're in a job that you hate and your boss is like terrible and you just feel awful from it. That feeling of anxiety is true because it's a real message to you on what to do. The false anxiety are the anxieties that come from, for example, low blood sugar. Low blood sugar can make you feel anxious. A food sensitivity can make you feel anxious. That's considered false anxiety. And so one thing I think about this all the time. I started therapy. I was probably 11 when I started therapy. And at the time, it's like I was starving myself and then binging. When I would binge, I would eat just like most terrible processed stuff. My blood sugar was probably like this constantly. I was eating all this food that was inflaming my body. And there I was sitting in the therapist's office, like shaking my leg and like talking about the same things over and over again. And getting a little bit of a release every time, but like not a full turnaround. But then gut health breakdown, have to fix my physical body. And then boom, on the other side of that, I'm feeling stable. You see? I feel like it makes most sense that way. Yes, we could talk about, so gut inflammation influences your microbiome, and then your microbiome communicates with your vagus nerve. All that stuff is happening. But if we're just speaking really plainly, that's what's going down. Okay, with weight, I feel like this is a really hot topic right now. And there's a lot of supplements coming out right now that are like, if you take this supplement because your gut health controls your weight, you will lose the weight. How does this really work? So I work with a client right now, actually, who's experiencing this, a one-on-one client, where she was a referral. She came to me going like, okay, I can't lose weight. I have been trying for a year to lose this weight, and it doesn't make sense to me. What is going on? Can you help? And a little background, she works out 6-7 days a week, like works out. She eats pretty darn healthy. And I would say lives pretty balanced lifestyle, seems. And it didn't really add up on like first glance as to why she couldn't lose weight. When you know your gut is the center of your health, like And that's the path to losing stubborn weight. What we first did was like, okay, well, how often are you going to the bathroom? Are you getting bloated? The foods, even though you're eating healthy foods, are they working for you? Like, even though they're healthy on paper, like, how do you feel when you eat them? Are you eating foods that you're sensitive to? What's going on with your microbiome? This we get a little nerdy, but like your gut bacteria. This is something we wouldn't think about until we hit a roadblock like this. Your gut bacteria control how many calories you absorb or not, like some wild stuff. And we just went through with a gut healing process, given her whole story, and we personalized it and stuff. And then first month, 8 pounds gone. She hadn't been able to lose 1 pound in a whole year. She lost 8 pounds the first month when we took a gut healing approach. When her gut was happy and starting to heal and run the way it was designed to run, the rest of her body followed. But more specifically, it's like, oh, what happened? What do you mean? Like, what happened with the gut? So when I was looking at her diet, and this is the beauty of if you can work with somebody one-on-one in the functional space who really understands how different foods can affect different bodies, this is where magic can happen. So I had to do a food journal and we looked at her diet. And again, there's one thing to look at foods and go, oh, those are healthy foods. It's another thing to understand food on like what different foods can do to a system. And I saw things like dairy, I saw things like gluten, I saw things like alcohol, that were, fairly in moderation. She wasn't somebody who was ordering, Domino's every day. But I saw these foods in her system. I saw the issues she was dealing with. And I went, okay, for example, gluten and dairy, we know that if your gut is not in its strongest state, they can basically add fuel to the fire and cause some inflammation. And just and that inflammation can result in holding on to water weight, influencing your hormones, influencing your cravings. It's this domino effect that happens versus like a pinpointy thing, like, oh, it's this thing. But looking at this level, I'm looking, oh, these foods, let's see if we can remove those foods. In a gut healing process, which is something I might have time to talk about at the end, how you get your gut back on track is ideally through a process of rehabbing your gut. It doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be stressful, but if you're in a state like she was, you're like, this is a chronic issue that's getting away in my life, it's worth it to spend a couple of months just getting your system back in order, and going from there. But the first part of a gut healing process typically is removing things from your diet and even from your lifestyle that are not working for healing. And a couple foods that are really high impact foods. Like I always say, you don't have to remove forever, but can really make a big difference in the beginning when healing your gut: gluten and dairy. And so we took out those foods. We also had her remove alcohol entirely. She not like she was a big drinker at all, but it was coming in weekly. And alcohol affects the gut by degrading the gut lining. It's a whole thing. But anyways, I'm sharing this so you see an insight into what I mean by gut healing. We remove some things and then we had to replace and went along that process. So that's like kind of step one. Later down the line, she may be able to bring those foods back in when her gut is healthy again and can handle those things, but in different portions. So by basically calming her gut down and making it easy for her gut and microbiome to be healthy and start to regenerate, that weight just fell off. And so we can kind of see that weight. And I see this all the time with women. It's more inflammation weight than it is like fat weight. Yes, there's some fat in there, but if there's inflammation present, it's going to be hard to lose. So that's one way the gut is connected there. Then we covered gut, we covered weight, we covered mind. I feel like we should have time for like one more. Oh, let's do hormones. So if you're a female, hormones are probably, in your mind somewhere if you're dealing with skin issues or weight issues or even gut issues or mood issues. Like, oh, is it my hormones? Is it my hormones? And I'm often working with women who they have a hormonal issue, like they have PCOS or terrible PMS, or they lost their period, or they feel like their hormones are sabotaging their weight or something like that. And then they're doing the hormony things to try to get their body back in balance, but they're hitting roadblocks. Back to the gut is the center. This could change a lot for you. So when you get this, hormones are so important. They do influence our moods, our cycles, our weight, but it's like this. How I would view it is like, here's gut, here's hormones. In terms of order, like think of it as a ladder, gut first, then hormones. What does this look like? And why am I saying it like this? So if you are struggling with a hormone issue that you're trying to rebalance, and you're probably trying to clear your skin or lose weight or something like that, and you're doing the hormone things, something that I see all the time is, well, that woman's gut health is not where it needs to be to support the hormone things that you are doing. Very tangible, non-sexy example. If you are not going number 2 every day completely, and I talk to a lot of women, okay? We're like, I go to the bathroom, yeah. But when we pull up the good old Bristol stool chart, which is a chart of what different number 2s look like, and I'm like, tell me what's going on. And it's like nowhere near normal, or they're just not fully emptying. You're not fully emptying every single day like clockwork. Then that also means that you're not detoxing your hormones properly. And then so all those months of like seed cycling and, trying to sync up with your cycle, but nothing is really happening. You can't lose the weight. Boom, you're not going to the bathroom. We need to fix this. That's just one example, okay? But when that gets going, okay, then our hormones can start to balance. But to bring all of this home, I could do a whole masterclass, and I probably will, on each of these different ones, because it is complex. And if you do enjoy this video and you do want more, just tell me. I'm most responsive on Instagram, so make sure we have that linked under here. If you want me to deep dive into any of these, I will. But the through line through all of this is, it's like, if you're feeling out of balance is a spectrum. It's like, I just don't feel that good, to I have a chronic condition and it's running my life. Wherever you are on that spectrum, take a personal inventory on what is happening in your core and your center. And if you're kind of like, I don't really know actually if my gut health is right, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I'm going to talk about action steps in a second, but more often than not, the more we learn about what good gut health manifests as, it manifests as clear skin. It manifests as clear mind. It manifests as your weight. It's easy to maintain your weight. It manifests as you not having crazy cravings. It manifests as you be able to lose weight easily. If that's not you, I would say, let's look at our gut. Let's do that. So then what do we do now that we know this stuff? This was such a I don't know if I should call it a pet peeve. But I remember when I first started learning this stuff, when I was healing myself, I would learn so much, but then it's like, it was hard to find action steps. Like, what do I do? Or even working with some practitioners, again, also well-meaning, but I would like leave an appointment with like a stack of supplements and like some information that like blew my mind, but like another follow-up booked, but no like real plan on like, how do I get better though? Like, how am I not going to be bloated? How am I going to fix this? I think we're still in a phase in the natural space where like clear steps to healing are emerging, right? That's where I feel like I want to create as much resources around, because that's really what I do in my practice is, to the best of my ability, it's never black and white. It's never black and white. I always say this to my clients. If it was like super simple and black and white, I could just print a PDF for you, send it your way, and you can go heal. I think what's beautiful about the body is it is so dynamic and it's affected by so many things. But nonetheless, like if you want to go from dealing with symptoms to not, the least what we want to do is, or what you want to do is try to create a pathway for yourself versus consuming information and just like spot treating. For me, that meant working with somebody one-on-one and in combination with my own trial and error stuff. I'll always say that I'm a self-healer. I bought courses, I did all the things, and I had somebody on the outside who could like guide me. If that's not an option for you, you can totally heal yourself. But knowing that having a plan, like what are you eating every day? What supplements do I need to take? What are the stages? What do I need to do to go from how I feel here to how I feel there? You want to think of it as a system. This was revolutionary for me when I realized this. And I realized it through reverse engineering. I ended up getting well. And then I went, what did I do? And then I learned what I did. And then I went to school for it. And then I'm like, oh, wow, there are systems. So what do you do? So I'm going to talk to a couple of different camps and then we're going to sign off because I know I'm going so long. So if you're watching this and you're like, okay, I need to rehab my gut. I need to heal my gut. But I don't know where to start. If you're in that first camp, what I honestly recommend you do is you just take a journal, like a literal paper and pen. If you got to use the notes app on your phone, okay, but paper and pen, and for a week straight, you record what you eat, when you eat it, and how you feel. And then at the end of those 7 days, you reflect on any patterns that you're seeing and notice what things didn't sit right with you, which ones do. And what comes from that can be one of two things. It could be one, you just actually start to get in tune with yourself of like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't even realize that I was, snacking all day, or I didn't even realize how much cheese I ate, or I didn't even realize that I am bloated all the time, or that's invaluable information that's going to set you on a path to finding solutions and healing. And you get connected to yourself. Which so many people are so disconnected. But when you're connected to yourself, it's almost impossible not to heal. But then too, it could literally reveal things that a food sensitivity test could never. Like, oh, this meal that I have every night, I feel like crap afterwards. Let me switch that out. But I would say start there. When it comes to diet, I was like, what should I remove from my diet? And truth is, diet is very personal. Diet's very personal, where depending on where you're at, what to remove will be different. But what I teach in my gut rehab program is, though it's different, there are some common through lines that if you remove them, they'll definitely support your gut. Giving your body a break from foods like alcohol, gluten, dairy. If you're a health nut, you're like, I don't eat any of that. But you do eat a lot of raw veggies and nuts and seeds and superfoods and all that. That could also be causing a problem. So simplifying your diet, simplifying and trying to eat in a rhythm can be really helpful first step there. The third thing I would say is just kind of circling back to the point before I start listing this out is work with somebody if you can. There's so many people that offer Zoom stuff these days, like I do. Somebody who can guide you so you don't stay stuck for a long time, dealing with these symptoms. And what you want to look for with somebody who can really help you rebalance a chronic issue is one, I think number one is on their website, or if you talk to them over the phone or whatever, that they can point to prior client experience or themselves where they have actually seen success. This is where I kind of felt like a rebel because we're not playing, okay? When I was trying to heal myself, I was really fed up with doctors. And basically when it came to finding a natural practitioner that helped, I was kind of, I don't want to say ruthless, but I was asking like, okay, have you ever helped anybody with this? That was like new for people to hear when I tell people that I ask, like, oh, you can't ask. That's like, what? We look on Amazon before we buy something at reviews. It's, if you ask in just a curious way, that just gives you an understanding whether that's a person you want to work with, but you want to vet the person that you're going to work with. Nobody can guarantee results, right? Nobody can guarantee healing, but that they work with somebody who's actually seen success. So important these days. Try to work with somebody. Or two, go down the functional rabbit hole. Functional nutrition, functional healing. Why? Because that is the science of restoring health. And I would start there. Third, if you're like, oh my gosh, I want to start right now, we have some resources at LNA. So the first is working with me one-on-one. I do see clients one-on-one over Zoom. I work with people now in 9 different countries, which is wild to think about. And there will be an application linked under here. I'm really big on making sure it's a good fit. So we'll make sure that we vibe, I can actually help, and we'll go from there. 2 is the Gut Rehab It List, which is basically the gut healing system that I have used now with client after client, hundreds of clients in my practice, put onto It List, which is really this great platform that allows me to not just tell you the steps, like eat this and here are the supplements, but coach you with voice notes. So it feels like I am guiding you through this process with my voice because I am. And you can start that anytime. And that's linked under here. My favorite part about that program, honestly, is that there's a group chat. So when you sign up for that, you're not just like out in the ethers by yourself, self-healing. Even if you want to do that, you can join this group chat and I pop in there sometimes, answer questions, and just really help you have the most low stress return to your health. So that's there. There's also some free resources. One is another masterclass I did on like, this is exactly how I ate to heal my gut. This is how I ate. That will be linked, and then anything else that we can come up with later. But all in all, I am so happy that you made it to the end of this. And remember, the gut is the foundation is like the foundation of your dream home. Your dream home is your healthiest, happiest, most successful version of you. And that's the true you. If you're feeling off right now, that's okay. That's just your body letting you know that something's off. We got to pay attention to it. You get on the right plan, you work with the right person, you gain the right information, you get connected to yourself. You have to heal. It's inevitable. Okay. Until the next one. Bye.